Hello, this is J.N.S, and today we are covering Chapter 2 of the Queen Mothership Enterprise Architecture Blueprint, which is governance. So we'll be talking about the Queen Mothership's leadership style in terms of its branches and its councils. Now, remember last week we covered Part 1 of the Queen Mothership Enterprise Architecture, which was pretty much just giving you the definition, the agenda, the intentions, just giving you pretty much a basic overview of the Queen Mothership. But today we want to focus on the governance. We want to get into the leadership style. Now, we're mainly going to talk about our councils and the Admiral branch. We do have committees within that governance, but we're going to cover the committees in a different chapter because it's based on the different logistics of how to set up the enterprise architecture in terms of the micro city itself. So the governance covers the layout pretty much. So that's why we won't be talking about the specific committees that are used to build up the micro city. We're just talking about the governance branch because you can still have the governance without having to participate in the microcity component of the Queen Mothership. So that is why they are separated for those reasons. But let's get straight into it. Let's go straight into Chapter 2. Let's not waste any time. Okay? So this is for the Black American. So let's begin. The governance of Queen Mothership is based on one man, one woman, and child. Each chapter is to be comprised of two branches. So wherever you're at in the country, whatever city you're in, or if you are on the continent of Africa itself, because I did give some disclaimer about who can start a chapter in Africa, but this is a Black American invention for the Black American, for select few. You know, not every Black American is going to rock with this, and that's completely fine. But this is for Black Americans who want self-determination, who want power, who want autonomy, who values strategy, who values love, who values intellectualism, who values group economics, working together under a matriarchal framework, because many Black American indigenous have grown up in matriarchal tribes, and those of who have the African descent, if they were to study their pre-colonial history and get back into what the dynamics was before slavery and colonization, they would see that many tribes were indeed matriarchal throughout West Africa. And so I did study this framework, and I did look at the breakdown of the framework between the nobility class and the governance, and particularly, and saw, okay, what worked, what didn't work. I studied this framework for about 3 years now. I wrote a book on it 3 years ago. And so now I'm in the stages of developing frameworks for Black Americans. And this one in particularly is done, but it was based on studying melanated people's relation to one another in terms of their governance. And they always had things centered around balance particularly around the divine feminine and divine masculine. So this is not a new concept that I'm doing. This is not new in terms of the Queen Mothership idea of the matriarchy. So this is for Black Americans who, you know, they see how thorough I am. They see the plan, they see the vision, and they want to partake in it, and they want to be active leaders, and they want their own autonomy, and they're fearless people. So it's for a very select few of Black Americans, though. Obviously, if I could wave a wand, we would all, you know, have our own thing. We would all just do things that are in our best interest, but we have to understand that we're dealing with people who deal with psychological enslavement. Melanated people globally are under a spell of psychological enslavement still, unfortunately. And many are coming into knowledge, coming into consciousness about who they are, and unveiling levels of consciousness and deprogramming their mind. And we want answers. We want a way. So the best way to do that is to follow a plan of logic, follow a plan of strategy, and follow a plan of our ancestors that is aligned with nature and the laws of electromagnetism and the laws of the universe. It has to be something that is pragmatic, something that is fair, something that makes sense. So if it makes sense, then you do it. So why is the enterprise architecture of the Queen Mothership matriarchal? Because it comes from the mind of a woman. This is something that I developed. Obviously I didn't come up with the idea of a micro city, but we're talking about the actual layout. When we get into the values, the tenets, some of the structures of the construction of the Queen Mothership itself, ideas about land, ideas about conservation, ideas about power, the tenets about power, things that we will focus on in terms of getting this Black American in positions of global rulership, making sure that they're preserved for the next 1,000 years on planet Earth. That is my concern as a Queen Mother. So those ideas come from the mind of me, who is a biological female, who was born female, born a woman. So that is why it is matriarchal in essence, just from the essence of my personality, as well as the nature of my actual biological sex. It dictates that this would be a matriarchal system. When we get into the ideas of our technology framing, our agility framing, our spiritual development, we all talk about that in the Queen Mothership. We have a social fabric that we're going to cover. We're going to cover the social fabric and all of these ideas of, okay, so what does the culture look like? We're building that out. Women deal a lot with building out culture, with planning and organizing. That is nothing new to melanated women. A lot of them have forgotten that. A lot of them have no idea that they were powerhouses in terms of governance. It was very much a real thing, whether you were indigenous to North America, South America, or Africa. It doesn't matter. When you look at specific tribes, and obviously specific tribes have their unique culture, their unique logistics, but when we're talking about how many of these tribes share a similarity of being matriarchal, that's pretty dope. And I argue that that's something that Black Americans should get back to. We're not talking about what we have today. Nothing like what we have today. Nothing that you see with single motherhoods, with Black women and Black men fighting like cats and dogs, with a 39% marriage rate, with the 72% outer rate. None of that is in the Queen Mothership. We have certain structures, high level structures, that deter from such, dysfunction, to be honest, just to be honest. So what you see now is a lack of structure and system and processes for our community. Some of us individually thrive in that, and we are able to navigate through that. But for some of us, it prevents power building in terms of being a power base, a collective power base, and being able to compete on a global stage. Not everybody is concerned with that, but I've been given a blueprint, and I have the blueprint. I'm not saying I'm the only one that can develop one, or I'm the only one that has one, or this is the only one that will work. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that we need a plan of action for not only preventing ethnocide, but putting ourselves in positions of power. We cannot always kowtow to other people's systems and their communities and what they got going on. We need our own shit. It's as simple as that. I don't care what anybody say. It's time for this Black American to rise. Why not? It's time for this Black American to be in a position of global rulership. And we got to think 1,000 years from now, even if you think 500 years from now. Stop thinking that white supremacy is just always going to be here. It's not. Your system is dying. It is on its last leg. And I know that many of you are in their programming, in their matrix, on their timeline, thinking that, okay, we have to go with the old vanguard, the 1960s way of thought, and, we shall overcome. We're going to march. We're going to do rallies. We're going to, we have to advance the methodology. We have to advance the strategy. It's as simple as that. You have to upgrade things and upgrade consciousness as well. And that is what I am doing for the Black American. So when we think about these timelines of, okay, what happens during the aftermath of white supremacy, during the aftermath of shift in power, because right now it is going to the Asians, and China particularly, and we see BRICS, and we see the change of vanguard. We've seen the Western world kind of a slow death. The thing is, Black Americans, you have to be the vanguard of America. You're pretty much going to have to lead America. And I know that may sound like no way, but you're the one that built it up. For one, you built it, designed it. You are critical to the infrastructure of the physical layout, but then the governance, the mechanisms, the machinations. This was all born from the work and the labor and the mind of Black Americans. So we have to see ourselves as leaders of this country, and it's going to be some battles, Black Americans. I hate to tell you this, but there's going to be some battles in terms of power, and I want to make sure that we're not at the bottom of it. It's as simple as that. And I'm not talking about physical battle, but I'm talking about, this quest, like this caste system that we've been relegated at the bottom. As the West dies out, we're going to have to put ourselves in different positions, in strategic positions. So that is why I've been thinking about this Queen Mothership enterprise architecture. That's why I developed it. That's why I want to present it. And that's why I want to work with the like-minded people who see the mission and the value in what I do. And we'll come together. We'll move off of, obviously, this YouTube thing. Whoever just wants to just get the blueprint and do their own thing, as long as they're following the blueprint. If they personally don't even have to like me, it's a blueprint. It's out there. Anybody can access it as long as you're a Black American. And even if you don't want to be in my particular branch as a Black American, you can start your own branch. You don't have to be under mine. You can do your own thing with the Queen Mothership branch, as long as you're adhering to the blueprint in terms of its values and tenets and its layout. And you obviously can deviate somewhat and add some more creative things. Say if it's a group of Black Americans who happen to identify as FBA, or who happen to identify as ADOS, and they want to keep their own little thing, and they want their own little faction to themselves, they're more than welcome to do that. With me, I represent just Black American. I don't go under any category. That is my own personal choice, because there's 40 million Black Americans, and those factions are small factions of Black America. And I think that getting in the weeds of specific monikers, to me, it can be a little bit distracting, or I wouldn't say, how do I say this? I just want a more broadened horizon of Black Americans. I don't want anybody to feel left out. So that's why I use the term Black American. Those who've been in this country, obviously, since 1870, at least. Obviously, many of you have been here way before. We go way back. We go back to 1700s, 1600s. So if you are one of those people that are Black American or Black Indigenous, you are the people that I want to build with, obviously. So though I don't care what you identify as far as like the different factions that we have, like this, we have Freedmen's, you have FBA, you have ADOS, Black Indigenous. I don't personally care what you identify as. I don't. But I will be under Black American, and this is for Black Americans, and it's as simple as that. So to get back to my point in terms of thinking about how will the Black American compete within their own country? How will the Black American compete on a global scale? How will the Black American compete when power shifts from Western to Asian? And then from Asians, they'll work with the Latinos for a bit. They're going to get into a rift. They'll have a little rift. Right now I'm speaking spiritually, so I'm just speaking from an intuitive point of view right now. Then they are going to strategically get into power alliances with Africa. The West will try as well. There's going to be another scramble. If Africa play their cards right, they will have a chance. I wish I can give them, I'll be coming up with a framework for that, but they're going to have to really, really, really be strategic in terms of like how they get into a power position, realizing that they have an advantage. If they are short-sighted, if they are greedy, then they can squander opportunity to become a power base again. But they certainly have the potential, given that they're going to be a scramble 2.0. And if they learn from their lessons the first time, they can navigate that and come out as far as a win-win situation with dealing with these other people, as far as Westerners and Asians. If they do not strategize, if they do not meticulously plan, then they'll just be colonization 2.0. It's already colonization 2.0. We see what China's doing over there, but we're talking about obviously decades and decades from now. We're not talking about right now. We're talking about once Western society falls, then the Asian comes into play. Then once renegotiation happens, the Asians have a short run of power. They're going to come to the table to the African, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do in terms of like, where do we come in? We're just trying to make sure that we have autonomy as Black Americans, and that we don't have to answer to none of these groups, that we don't have to answer to the Europeans, that we don't have to answer to the Asians, that we don't have to answer to the Latinos, that we don't have to answer to the Africans. And I know that sounds like, well, what about alliances and what about cooperation? There's a time and a place for that. I'm not saying that cannot ever happen, but right now, no. Right now, we have to be in collation mode in terms of our own collective power base. We have to be really focused on building that, and we have to develop those structures and processes to make sure that we are able to handle the onslaught that's coming, the stuff that they're going to be trying to do to us. And we don't want the short end of the stick of none of these people, whatever they trying to do, because we have to understand that we are a people. As far as Black Americans, we have a very specific tribe, we have a very specific lineage, a very specific history and look, and we want to preserve that. We want to be here 1,000 years from now, but we don't want to just be always in the position of the bottom of the caste system. We want to be in a position of power. And there's ways that people get in power while being the minority, while being outnumbered. And that's what I look at from a strategic point of view. And it starts with finding the right people to build something with, and who are serious. That's where it starts with building your community and being very serious and strategic about building your community. So that is my thought process going into this. If you guys want to know, like, well, what is your thought process? It's really about maintaining power 1,000 years from now. And we're starting that now, so that by the time these other shifts happen, by the time the Western world falls, by the time the Asians get in power, whatever they're going to do, we have a foothold. We have a power base where we can determine our own fate, essentially, where we're self-sufficient, because that self-sufficiency is the key. And we're able to deal with people who try to sabotage us, and we're able to be fearless, and we're able to protect one another as Black Americans. So that is what the Queen Mothership comprises of. You know, it's about, again, one man, one woman, one child. That's the governance that is based on, as far as the spiritual aspects of what it's based on. So now let's get into the actual physical governance. Like, let's talk, a little political, will you? So each chapter is comprised of 2 branches. The first branch is the Admiral branch. That's the first branch. And then the second branch is the Queen Mothership branch. So each component, it works together to carry out the canons and the decisions of that particular Queen Mothership chapter. So each chapter of the Queen Mothership, and whatever city that you're in, will have the Admiral branch. The Admiral branch is the highest. And then you have the Queen Mothership branch. Within the Queen Mothership branch, you have councils. Okay, so let's talk about the Admiral branch. The Admiral branch, again, is the highest branch. It is to consist of one woman and one man. Generally, you would like them to be elected eventually, but say if you're just starting, say if it's a married couple, and they say, you know what, we like this Queen Mothership shit. We got 5 people that's on board. We got about 5 people that want to build something, that want to pull some resources together. We'll be the Admiral branch. We'll start the chapter and we'll be the Admiral branch. If you're a married couple, or if you know you got a real good friend you guys are friends, and it's a man and it's a woman, and you guys want to do some land development, or something that's in the Queen Mothership that you're interested in. When we covered throughout the blueprint, is if you see something that you like and you're like, you know what, I have some ideas about fusion power. We got a small little group that's talking about fusion power, and Queen Mothership focuses on that. The Queen Mothership Enterprise does implement certain technology methods for Black Americans that we want the Black American to get in front of. And we're just talking theoretically now. And there's two, you're a married couple and you want to start a branch. You would technically make up that Admiral branch, because it would just be you two, and you would have to go and build up your base. But eventually you would be subjected to elections just like everyone else, possibly, depending on the nature of the structure of your particular branch. You are supposed to be electing the admirals. The man and the woman is supposed to be elected. And in my branch, it's a bit different because, for one, I'm the creator of it, and right now I'm just running the branch, and there is a guy that I have in mind that I'm thinking of, but I'm just still in the vetting process. But before you give that position, there's a certain criteria that each admiral must meet, and so we're looking for that. And the admiral branch, they are seen as like the executives. They're co-presidents. They have equal power. This is a man and a woman. They are elected, and it's as simple as that. And they are referred to as Chief and Queen Mother. You don't have to call them that. In my branch, that's what they're called. In your branch, you don't have to call them that. You can call them presidents, for all I care. So the Admiral branch, they are to consist of individuals that are fearless leaders and that they are committed to empowerment. And they should have a clean and proven track record of service to the community or leadership. So while anybody can step up and say, you know what, I'm going to start my own Queen Mothership branch, and me and my husband, we're going to be the admirals, and we are going to find people, or we already have a group of people, that's fine. However, there are some mechanisms set up in place within this Queen Mothership where you can be vetoed out. It's not like it's a dictator thing. There are some mechanisms within the Queen Mothership branch, within the councils itself, that can vote you out, even if you decide not to hold formal elections. But you got the Council of Formidable Men, and you got the Council of the Queen Mothers. If they feel there's an issue with your leadership, they can systematically remove you. And we'll talk about that as we go on. But the Admiral branch, again, one man, one woman. Admiral branch, if you need time, like say if you're a person out there, wherever you're at, and you need time to find the man as a woman, I will allow that. If you're a woman and you want to start a Queen Mothership chapter wherever you are at, and you're in the processes and of finding people, and you don't have a man to run it with you, that is fine temporarily. I'm thinking of putting a time limit on that though. Like you would have a certain amount of time, like maybe a year, that had to fill that role. I have to think about that. But theoretically, and based on this blueprint, the Admiral branch is to consist of one woman and one man. They do not have to be married. You don't not have to be together. If you're a couple, obviously that may work, but you do not have to be married at all. You can just be a woman and a man. We're just trying to get out the balance of power, because again, this is a matriarchal egalitarian system. So though it's matriarchal, men still have positions of power. Men still have equal positions of power at that. So it's not just a position of leadership, but generally speaking, they have the same amount of power. However, women are allowed to start their own branch without them being a man involved. Now, I'll answer the question of what if you can't find a man, or what if you don't? What if you just want to do this, and you have a group of women, and some men in your area particularly don't want to do a Queen Mothership, it's just women that want to do it, then that's fine. That is fine. So now let's talk about the councils. So within the Queen Mothership branch, because remember, you have the Admiral branch, you have the Queen Mothership branch. The Queen Mothership branch lies several councils. You have the Councils of Elders, the Council of Formidable Men, the Council of Queen Mothers, and the Council of Children. So all of these sub-branches make up the Queen Mothership branch. Now this branch, they make the decisions and they make canons. The Council of Queen Mothers evaluates the decision in canons and can overturn canons. The councils can veto the Admiral branch with a 2/3 vote. They can also vote them out with a 2/3 vote. Women and men on the Council of Elders can simultaneously serve on the Formidable Men and Queen Mother Council. So again, if you are an elder and you're on the Council of Elders and you're a man, you can still be in the Formidable Men Council. Same with the woman. If you're an elder woman and you want to serve on the Queen Mother Council, you can still do that. The number of members on the council are subject to change, but let's go through the number of members on the council as well as age requirements. So for the Admiral branch, right now, we're looking at least 25 years old. In the book, it says 30, but I'm going to reduce that number by 5 years. So 25 years old, and there's 2 members in the Admiral branch of each chapter. So if each chapter, wherever you're at, say if you're in North Carolina, you're in Georgia, you're in Texas, wherever you're at, your Admiral branch needs to have 2 members starting out. If you can't find a man, you'll have a year to fill that position, or you can just be a woman's only Queen Mothership branch if you cannot find men who want to get involved. That's 2 members for the Admiral branch, at least 25 years old. Council of Elders. Council of Elders is age 55 and up. Thinking about changing that too. Council of Elders, shouldn't that be like age 50? Council of Elders is age 55 and up. So again, the number is subject to change. For the Council of Formidable Men, you have to be at least 21 years old. 2 to 11 members. The book, it says 3, but 2 to 11 members. For the Council of the Queen Mothers, you have to be at least 18 years old. Once again, 2 to 11 members. In the Council of Children, that is age 12 to age 17. For the Council of Children, pretty much there's not a set number. It's just like, say if we have our micro city and we got between the 20 of us or between the 30 of us, we got 6 children. Or let's see, yeah, we got like 6 children in our little micro city. There'll be the Council of Children, and I'll explain what the Council of Children do because everybody has a role, and we're preparing the Council of Children for leadership role. Like we're embedding a culture of leadership and management and strategy within our children very young, and intellectualism. So that is why we have the Council of Children, because the children are very important and they should have a say in how they're raised. They should have a say. Granted, we're also instilling values of deep respect for adults who have their best interests in heart. So the Council of Formidable Men, the Council of Formidable Men and the Council of Queen Mothers, we love our children. The Council of Elders, we love our children. We center them. We center Black American children. And by doing that, they have a job and a role to fulfill in terms of just being kids, being children. But their number one job is to respect mother and father, because we don't do whippings in the Queen Mothership. We don't whip our children, and we don't inflict violence on them. So we use logic-based approach to child rearing, and very much a process of the children understanding their role, and the father becomes very important in the Queen Mothership. Who can start a chapter? So let's cover that. That's in the book. Who can start a chapter? A Black American woman. This Black American woman can identify as Black American, who has been foundational to this country. If they're not calling themselves Black American, but they're under the umbrella of Black America, they can identify as a FBA. They can identify as an ADOS woman, a freedman, a Black Indigenous, or African American. We don't care as long as you're 18 years old. Who else can start a chapter? A Black American man. Black American men can start a Queen Mothership chapter on their own. Once again, they can identify as freedmen, FBA, ADOS, Negro, Black Indigenous, African American, nobody cares. But that Black American man must prioritize Black women and children. Again, it says a matriarchal culture. So, though Black American men can start a Queen Mothership chapter, they have to have the right mindset within our chapter. They have to have the right mindset within the Queen Mothership. So, they have to prioritize Black women and children. So if they're going to start their own chapter, that's just a given. Because the Black American woman is prioritizing women and children and men. So we're requiring a Black American man who starts the Queen Mothership to prioritize women and children. Who else? A copper-colored Black American. These are the indigenous that were labeled Negro, Black, or colored. So Black Indigenous Americans can start a Queen Mothership chapter. Now, I'll say this. I am very much aware that there are Black Americans who have been labeled Negro, Black, or colored who do not go by Black. They solely go by their indigenous tribe. They believe in doing their genealogy and them with their individual bloodlines. Even though on occasion you will see them say Black American, or you will see them identify that they were labeled Negro or Black. You can start a Queen Mothership chapter as well. That is also in the book. They are allowed to because they are our people, and many Black Americans are indigenous. Many Black Americans are admixed. Many Black Americans have African descent. So we're not in the business of getting into the weeds of identity politics, labels, gang banging, as far as the names, as far as the identities, as far as your religious beliefs. None of that matters. This is a very structured format for building collective power bases across the country. Now, who was the last person who could start a chapter? A melanated person on the continent of Africa or the Caribbean. You have to be in your hometown, though. You have to be in your homeland. This creation is for Black Americans. But I understand that there are plenty of African women who are aware of their matriarchal lineages from pre-colonial times. They have their oral histories. They are still matrilineal, but they may be matrifocal. They may no longer be matriarchal. They may be patriarchal now. But let's say they have some women that want to do matriarchy leanings, and they see how structured the program is in terms of the social fabrics, the child rearing processes, the man and woman processes, and they like those ideas because it's not just we're talking about governance today, but we're going to get deep into like social fabric, deep into like power building, and then the next framework that I have really gets into like serious military science strategies and shit like that. So, say if there are women in Africa or men in Africa that say, you know what, let's give the Queen Mothership a chance. They are more than welcome to do that. They have to just understand that they cannot try to say that they created it or anything, that it is from the mind of Black Americans. This is a Black American invention. So that is who can start a chapter. Remember, Black American woman, Black American man who is prioritizing the Black woman and children, copper-colored Black American who goes with their indigenous leanings. And I understand that many of you don't even call yourself Black. Many of you go by American Indian or by your tribe. You can start a chapter, okay? And lastly, say if you are not from Black American tribe, you have to understand that the rules of engagement for the Queen Mothership is to be set forth by Black Americans for other melanated people. And I know that may sound like, well, why don't we have a say? This is a Black American invention. Okay, so when the diaspora, when you in your homelands, you have to be in your homeland. When you use the Queen Mothership blueprint, you are learning from Black Americans. And what we're trying to do with the Black American is get them in global positions of leadership as melanated people, And it's as simple as that. So let's talk about the machinations of the chapters itself. Like, what are the various models that one can use when they're starting the Queen Mothership chapter? You can start a chapter solely for Black Americans. You can make it exclusively for Black Americans in your particular chapter. In your particular chapter, you can make it exclusively Black American within the sub-faction. So by that, we're saying, like, say if it's just ADOS, they just want ADOS. FBAs, they just want all FBAs. You gotta be a FBA. You can have it where it's just all Freemans. You can do it that way. Me personally, I do not do my branch that way. Mine's is Black Americans, and I do not care who you identify as long as you rocking with me, because I have a very specific framework in mind and a very structured way that I will be running this, and I just don't have time to be focused on identity politics in terms of the name banging. I just don't have energy to focus that on. So I don't care what you call yourself, as long as you're Black American. You have to be that, and I don't care if you are indigenous. You are welcome here as well. If you're Black indigenous, I prefer Black Americans who have that open mind. I prefer universal Black Americans who just don't give a damn and want to build. They not into that name banging. They just want to build, and they want something for their damn self. And when we talk about build, we're talking about communities that we can benefit from. So it's not just like, oh, what are you building? You're building just to build. No, we're building shit that we will benefit from for years to come. We want to have something that we benefit from, something that we can enjoy. Think of utopias. Now, there is no such thing as the perfect society, but we will get as close to a utopia as possible, because we want Black Americans to have their own neighborhoods where they thriving in. We have community gardens, we have food co-ops, we have our own systems of economy. We are self-sufficient. So those people, as long as you want that, and as long as you are open-minded in terms of identity as far as being a Black American, then with my particular branch, I don't care what you identify as. So another various model, though, is for those who are exclusively, indigenous. That is possible. If you are exclusively Black indigenous, you can have your own model for the Queen Mothership, just like the ADOS and the Freemans and the FBAs can. You can also have it where, again, it's solely for just Black Americans without caring about what they identify as. I would prefer it that way, but I understand that there is a lot of tension, and there is ideological differences, cultural differences within the factions. I was talking about it in one of my videos earlier, where I'm noticing, like, some groups are more political than others, some groups are more organized than others, some groups are more warrior based than others, some groups are more cultural based than others. And we're talking about within Black America, like within Black American lineage. And I honor that, and I understand that, and it's just like, okay, it is what it is. So the next model that one can have is a mixture, because we still got some Pan-African Black Americans. We got some Pan-African Black Americans, man. And they, no matter what we say, no matter what we do in terms of our quest for delineation and our fight for delineation, there will be Black Americans that see the value in working with other melanated people in terms of Africans or Caribbeans. If there is a Black American that is on that wave, that's fine. That's fine. And then as far as the continent of Africa, you can obviously have your own models within tribal lines, within regions. That is fine as well. So that is the models, the various models. But the most important model is the one I will be talking about, is the one that I'll be running, that is solely for Black Americans. And that is for Black Americans in general. I do not care how you identify. Now we're going to talk about what should each chapter be doing when they have this governance. When they have the Admiral branch, they have the Queen Mothership branch, which consists of the Council of Formidable Men, the Council of Elders, the Council of Queen Mothers, and the Council of Children. What should they be doing? They should be prioritizing grassroots organizing eventually. Then get into building up resources and capital to start these micro cities. So by encouraging the local communities to come together, you may have to do some recruiting efforts. Hopefully not. This can be something real small. You don't need hundreds of people. You don't need even 100 people to start a chapter. You could start very small with 20 people, 10 people. You would be coming together and taking ownership of your own development which creates a strong foundation for progress. And what we're trying to do is foster that economic opportunity and increase access to self-determination. So other things that each chapter should be doing is building an autonomous urban village or microcity. That is one of the main goals of this Queen Mothership. The next one is obviously practicing group economics. The next one is practicing marriage and proper child rearing. And there's blueprints for all this stuff. There's a chapter we're going to just cover our economics. We're going to cover our social fabric. We're going to cover our child rearing, our culture. We'll cover all of that. The next one is embracing their heritage and culture. And then the last one is making love. Now I know that's like, why do you got that in there? Like, making love, where did that come from? We're raising a vibration of consciousness of the Black American through mind, body, and soul. So your state of the way you approach everything, the way you approach life, has to be from a vibration of the higher self. So we're wanting to make sure that Black Americans are not only seeing themselves as global leaders, seeing themselves as a special people, but they're seeing themselves as conduits of love, and they're loving on one another. So making love and sexuality is very important. That's why we have the Center for Sexual Health and Family Planning. The Center for Sexual Health and Family Planning is for Black Americans because we emphasize a strong family unit. We emphasize very strong family units. We emphasize fatherhood and motherhood. And the family planning aspect of that is making love under a certain covenant, under a certain vibration, to produce Black American children. So it's all strategic. It's all laid out. We'll get into the details of this. Remember, this chapter is only focusing on governance. So now we're going to go into chapter 3, and we're going to cover, what do the Queen Mothership branches do? How are they chosen? Okay, so let's go into the Queen Mothership Council. So I'm just going to read it verbatim to you. So the powerful females of the Queen Mothership profoundly impact the council and leadership of the tribe. Now we're talking about Black Americans. From leading successful negotiations, so the Queen Mothership the Queen Mothership Council, which is women. This is Black women, Black American women, listen up. You are in control of leading successful negotiations with neighboring tribes or nations. So with other chapters, you may be leading successful negotiations even within your local authorities when it comes to, the negotiations around land, negotiations around irrigation, water collection. The women, you're going to be planning a lot of that. We're going to have some things for the men too. We'll get with the men. But Black women, you are tasked with planning a lot of that stuff out, ensuring equitable access to resources. So your job is planning and negotiations and ensuring equitable access to resources. You're also instrumental in maintaining and creating cultural structures. So a lot of it will be dealing with children, child rearing, education. You will be dealing with a lot of the education structures in terms of homeschool. And we have a university. We're going to be building that up. In my particular branch, will be focusing on using that university for homeschool, community-based scholarships. So we're going to switch the elements of how you run a university to MOOC-based. So it'll be MOOC-based, but it'll also be homeschool based and community based. So we're doing a lot of community based scholarships. So we're taking the university from this idea of higher education for those who are 18 and up and putting it in a very village based like concept. And I'll be teaching how to do that, and I'll be running mine like that. And Black American women, that is what you'll be expected to do. Another thing that you'll be integral in is establishing laws and guidelines. So establishing canons, specifically. You'll be prioritizing justice. So you'll be on the judicial boards. You'll also be a part of the Queen Mothership Patrol. You'll be ensuring fairness. You also have a big role in peacekeeping activities. Within the chapter, within the Queen Mothership Patrol, which is communal policing, and all of that is critical components of the governance. So you are mediators. So and this is all in the book. The women on the council, they act as mediators in times of contention between members of the specific tribe or the specific chapter, and you are expected to show impartiality and wisdom and knowledge. In addition to promoting cooperative behavior among the members, this is what you are to do as women. You are also, again, you're disseminating information about customs, values, and skills, cooking, and other essential aspects of life, as well as education is very important, Black women. So when we give you this blueprint and you're like, okay, well, why am I in charge of educating the children and coming up with the cultural stuff? It's going to be very important for our community to have our own educators. It's also going to be important for women to determine customs, values, and skills. And culture. We have to determine that culture. Okay, so you contribute to enriching the tribe's culture. You're in charge of developing languages. We're going to be doing some pictograph languages again. We're going to be communicating as Black Americans in ideograms and pictographs. Like, we're going to be inventing our own version of fucking hieroglyphics. Yes, we are. I'm already thinking of shit, and it's so we can communicate. Okay, so Black women, you do have to have a deep understanding of your own history, your pre-colonial history as well, whether you're indigenous or you're African descent. You're going to have to know that your tribes were matriarchal. You're going to have to know the history of the matriarchy, the history of Black Americans and death, our culture, our inventions. You're going to have to know the basics of outlining certain educational bases, and I'll teach you guys all of that. I'll teach you processes. I'll develop that. I'm one person, but I already have some things in mind, and I've written out lots of things over the years that most people don't know about because I am new and because I just started my journey with coming to the public with this stuff. So a lot of this material, believe it or not, is already developed. Even like when we talk about like the university and the MOOC, that stuff is already developed online. The community center, community-based scholarships, it's already developed. We just need bodies now, So as far as let's talk about the judicial affairs, because the Queen Mothers govern judicial affairs, meaning that no wrongdoing can escape their notice and justice is always served. You do act as advisors and you can make decisions. Okay, so your strength and your wisdom ensures that current members as well as future generations have access to a secure environment in which they can live their fulfilling lives. Okay, Black women, so you're very much dignified. You're very much put back on your throne as Queen Mother of the universe. We very much honor the Queen Mothers. We're going to talk about the men because I know y'all like, where's the men going to come in? We're going to get with the men. But right now we're talking about the Black woman. And so Black woman, you are also in charge of governing agriculture and water security. Men can do, because we have brother keepers and sister keepers, and our brother keepers and sister keepers, whoever volunteers for that, they'll be working in the community gardens. And so while the women more in terms of advanced agricultural systems and processes, women, you are expected to contribute to that. But just know that there will be brother keepers helping you with the farming as well, if they want to, because all of this is voluntary based. So it's not like somebody is going to dictate a role to you. There's roles, and you choose what you want to do. If you don't want to be a brother keeper and working in agriculture, you can work in our technology section. You can contribute to the patrol section, the defense. We got education. We still have to run it. You have shamanism, medicine. So it depends on what skill you have. It's about your skill and your passions, because passion is very important. So whatever, if you don't want to, as a woman, if you don't like none of these roles, and like you don't want to be on judicial affairs, you don't want to teach children, you don't want to deal with children, you want to do some architecture. You're an architect. You want to come up with schematics for land building. You can do that as a woman. No one will take that away from you at all. Say you don't want to have children at all, and you child free and single by choice, and that's your business. There's still space for the Queen Mothership. If you don't want to deal with cooking, you don't have to. There's other roles. If you're a technology whiz and you develop some ideas about antimatter or some shit, we need you. We need your mind. So this is voluntary based, but the Queen Mothership Council, you got to remember, this is the Queen Mothership Council. So not every woman is going to be on the Queen Mothership Council. So you can do your own thing within the micro city and still have your own position, still have your own desires and passions, while not ever having to serve on the Queen Mothership Council. But whoever serves on this Queen Mothership Council, they are controlling the agriculture and water security, ensuring that there's enough food and water for everyone to survive. They are covering judicial affairs. They are acting as peacekeepers, and they are acting as educators. And even if they're not individually educated, we're still coming up with high level processes for our education system, for our agriculture system, for our water security. We're going to sit and literally plan that out. Like in my branch, I sit and I already plan this shit out. Like I be thinking about this shit on a daily basis. I know you're like, really? But that's just the type of woman I am. It's just, it comes natural to me. This all came very natural to me. Also, Queen Mothers, we deal with a system and processes around child rearing. This is in the book. We're teaching the younger generations about their responsibilities and roles within the tribe, and it's as simple as that. We give them guidance. We are able to encourage our people with courage, intelligence, and dignity, and we honor the women on the councils. That's a special role. So again, not every Black woman has to serve on the Queen Mothership Council. You are encouraged to at least try it out. You don't have to do it for ever, but if you want to be on that council, you have at it. But if not, you do not have to have that responsibility, and you can still be in the Queen Mothership without having to serve on any councils, except for like if you're a child. So now let's talk about the Council of Formidable Men. The Council of Formidable Men obviously consists of Black American men. So obviously the men play an integral part in the Queen Mothership. So there have been women that have asked me, why are there men in the Queen Mothership? Why can't we just build out a matriarchy? Again, it's balance in the laws of electromagnetism, of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. This is something our people always understood. Also, there are very open-minded Black American men. There are indigenous Black American men who have, for one, been raised matriarchal, and there are Black American men in general who would like the structure, who are also thinking of like autonomy, who are also thinking of self-governance, who are also thinking of self-determination. There are Black American men that's thinking about that shit. It may not be many, because many of them are brainwashed by this matrix, but there are some that are going to fuck with us. So we are expecting there to be more women than Black men in the Queen Mothership. But we do have, believe it or not, there are more, at this point in time, there are more men inquiring about this than Black women. That's very baffling. But again, since I come from the reparations and Black women empowerment space, as well as Black empowerment space, my frame of reference is to run into Black men who actually think more like me, even though it's not many at all, but just my social circle, there are men that are interested in this, and they're like, you know what, I know about the matriarchal societies of the past. I know about the matriarchal societies in Africa and in America, and I want to try that shit. Let's try it. Let's try it again. Shit, why not? So you have that. So the Powerful Men in the Formidable Men Council. Again, it's voluntary as well. You do not have to serve on this council if you do not want to. But if you want to, what is your role? You're providing leadership in defense and protection to those in the community. It's as simple as that. The Black American Man and the Formidable Men Council is also in architecture. They're also dealing with transportation, technology, engineering projects, and also economy. So the men are charged with coming up with very witty ideas. And again, if a woman wants to do this, you can do this. Do not think that I'm taking this from you, Black women. If you are architecture, if you're in technology, you are more than welcome to have a position doing that. But for those on a Formidable Men Council, again, this is a council. The men will be in charge of those things. They will be in charge of those things. And they have authority over specific tasks, such as like the barring good economy that we'll have. Services within the economy. Again, the Admiral branch oversees everything. The Queen Mothership also has a vote over this as well with the Elder Council. So if we see that the men are not doing, or they doing some sherm shit, there's ways, there's check and balances. So, but for now, the Formidable Men Council, they do hold leadership over the construction efforts regarding, again, architecture, transportation, technology, and engineering projects. They are looked at as symbols of strength in the community. Okay, and they are looked at as leadership. They also deal with defense. Come up with a lot. We have a QM defense team. They're literally just called QM defense. And the Formidable Men Council, they don't have to be in a QM defense and vice versa, but they are charged with coming up with some high level schematics in terms of defense and protection of the women and children. Absolutely. Okay. They also alleviate tensions between different factions and provide a sense of security and defending the QM for external threats. So the Formidable Men Council and the Queen Mothership Council, they're special to us because they are critical to the infrastructure of the Queen Mothership chapters. So your particular branch, wherever you're at, the Formidable Men Council and the Council of Queen Mothers, they're very vital to the infrastructure. Okay, so they are to be honored, they are to be catered to, they are to be, we have to look out for them because they're stepping up as leaders, they're in making sure that stuff runs. And and mind you do not have to serve on these councils, and you can still be in, like, say if you're a man and you don't want to be a part of the council, but you're a software engineer, you can still be in engineering. You still want to do transportation. You can still do transportation. You good with architecture. You're a carpenter, and you're able to put things together. You can still do that and not have to be on the council. But we're talking about high level building, okay? And we're structuring out, and we have meetings. We have meetings all together. They have meetings by yourself. The Formidable Men Council, they have certain meetings just by themselves, of course, but we all have meetings together. We have meetings with our committees, the committees that oversee the lower functions of the Queen Mothership Pocket City itself. So we have a land committee, we have a water committee, we have a food committee. We have those committees, and we'll also be meeting with them. And particularly the Admiral branch, my branch will be meeting with them as well. So now let's talk about the Elder Council. What do they do? So the Council of Elders play a pivotal role in maintaining the sanctity and order within the community. So this council, they're made up of respected older community members with a wealth of knowledge and experience that can be shared with others. And the primary purpose of this council is to provide advice, guidance, and insight into complex matters that arise within the community. You do have to have a considerable amount of experience, in leadership to be on the Elder Council. And they are tasked with ensuring laws and regulations are followed. They keep traditions alive and well respected. So say there's a breakout between a Formidable Men Council and the Council of Queen Mothership. They at odds. The elder of councils will step in. Because guess what? The elder of councils, there is an equal number of men and women on this council. Now, obviously, if you have 3, I think the elder council is supposed to have an even number, right? Okay, yeah, so I have to change that. The Council of Elders must always have an even number, and the Council of Elders must have an even number of women and men on that council, because they're providing the check and balance system just in case there are some breakouts. And then the Elder Council may get into it with the Formidable Men or with the Queen Mothership Council. And then the Admiral branch has to step in. Maybe the councils are at odds with the Admiral branch, and the Council of Queen Mothers are at odds with what the Formidable Men are doing. You know, the Elder Councils, they are critical in making sure that balance stays and that we stay as one. Okay, they are to serve as mediators as well. So in addition to having the women being the peacekeepers, the elder councils, they are mediators between disputes and disagreements as well. Yes, they are. And they are looked to for ensuring order, customs, values, ensuring the community's well-being. So they do manage the day-to-day activities, again, providing guidance on new initiatives. So they'll be, again, we will prefer the elder councils to have backgrounds in business, background in technology, background, like just have, whatever field you're in, just be of your older age and use your experience for building up your own community. Okay, and again, there must be an equal number of men and women on this council, so I have to change that in the blueprint, and I need to go with a set of 3 to 11 members. It needs to be even number of men and women on this council. That's what it says in the book. So then we cannot have an odd number. So we're looking at what, 4 to 12 members, but even numbers. 2. Let's do two, just because just is new, and if you can't find 4, maybe you can only find 2. So 2 man and woman at the least for this elder council. So that is their role. So now we're going to talk about the Council of Children. The Council of Children, this is essential in creating a strong and sustainable leadership model in our community. Okay, so it consists of ages 12 to 17, young people dedicated to developing positive relationships with adults, communicating their needs, opinions, and ideas, and they're advocating for children's rights. Children have rights. This is what the Dark Goddess has told me. This is what the Primordial Mothers communicated to me. Like, our children have rights. You know, and the council should, they can't run amok now. Because the number one rule for the Council of Children is respect for mother and father. Because we don't give whooping. We do other discipline. We have other disciplines. But we're not going to be telling you the children 5 or 10 times to listen, and they don't listen, and they not doing what they're supposed to do. That's a no-go in the Queen Mothership. We tell you one time. We give you a look. And these children are supposed to, it's respect is key. So all this, you know, I was hearing black people talking about they got to whoop their children and all that. No, there's no whooping, because what we say the first time, when we're telling you the children to do something that's in their best interest, they are expected to listen one time, especially to their fathers. So the Council of Children helps us with our child rearing. It alleviates the need for whoopings, alleviates the need for tensions between mother and father and child, because the children, they have their rights. They will be given support from the adults. They can express their views. They have little meetings. These little children have meetings, and they'll be planning their own little parties. You know what I mean? They'll have their own little they got to plan their own little get-togethers. On the weekends, we're going to be having get-togethers for them on the weekends. We'll do it by age, because again, you got to be 12 to 17 for the Council of Children. If they're under 12, they're just being a kid. But 12 is kind of coming into age, and for the Black American, because we got to remember, we're developing a strong culture base. So at the age of 12, they're preparing for leadership. Pretty much, they're preparing for leadership to run that self-autonomy community. So they're expected to join the council, to serve on the council. If they don't want to, they don't have to. Say they're 13, 14, and they're not getting along with other children, and they don't feel like they fit in, they can't relate, they do not have to be on the council of children. But generally speaking, our children are expected to be in the council. But if it's not for them, and they got something else they want to do, that is fine. Okay? But this council of children is to prepare them for strong leadership. That's what it is. That's what we're doing. They're going to have little problem-based case studies that they have to work on. Little problem-based case studies. We're going to be getting them into technology very young. Nanotechnology, AI. Don't have little robot competitions and stuff. These are the things that we're going to do with our Black American children. Okay? Long-term positive community changes. This is serious high-level nation building. And now we have that Council of Children. So now let's discuss how to elect Admiral members. And I'm just going to read this verbatim. Okay? So first and foremost, prospective admirals. Remember, that's the branch, the Admiral branch. Remember, there's two branches: Queen Mothership branch, Admiral branch. So now we're talking about the Admiral branch, was the executive branch. One man, one woman. Or remember, if you are just not starting, you can do this just as a woman, and you can do this just as a man as well. So you must have 3 to 5 years of experience leading or managing an enterprise, project, or institution. It's as simple as that. 3 to 5 years, and I don't care what field it's in, but again, some type of project, some type of enterprise, some type of institution that you played a leadership role in. It can be anything. It can be anything. You can be of the working class and do this. You can be of the professional class and do this. Leading or managing, some type of experience. If you were a manager at Walmart or manager wherever you're at, that's management. That means you're qualified. But you have to have 3 to 5 years. And that's a prospective admiral position. And again, this is very it's not stringent. I don't want you guys to think like, oh, I don't have 3 to 5 years leading a project. If you're a nonprofit and you did something with children, that's still leadership. Like, it can be anything. Don't think that it's just certain fields. You know, you have to have business background or something like that. I mean, that would be good. But for the prospective admirals, just some experience leading and management. It's as simple as that. And I think that's common sense, because that is the highest branch. That's the executive branch. You need to know how to do that. You got a blueprint in front of you. Like, I've mapped out the blueprint as much as I could. But at the same time, your skill set, your personality, who you are, if you're starting this chapter and you're the admiral branch, it's still going to be your own little style. Your own look. So you have to have some experience. You have to have some good leadership. Can't be a narcissist. Got to be self-reflective and introspective. And that goes for me. As a leader, I told you guys, one of the things that I'm willing to do is, for one, serve my community, but also be very introspective and reflective of my own actions and behaviors at all times. If I find that I offend my community, I have to self-reflect. Think about what I did and work on my behavior. I can be very, very flippant. You know, I have very little patience for bullshit. I cannot stand bullshit. I don't have patience. I have to work on patience. I also think very fast. I process information extremely fast. So I hate slow stuff. You know, I can't stand, like, if people that surround me, you know, that everything that I listen to or watch has to be, you know how you could change the speed of things that you're watching and things that you're listening to. I never watch things at the normal speed. It's too slow. I can't, it aggravates me. I have no patience. So I have to work on my patience as a leader. And I listen to everything at 1.5 speed. Literally, I had to put it on 1.5. Even if you hear the way I talk very fast. sometimes. Right now I'm going slow consciously, but people who know me personally always constantly slow down, because my brain processes stuff extremely fast, and I can't stand slow motion thinking. I enjoy people who can do that, and because it's something I don't have, and it's something I admire. But as a leader, you have to have that patience. You have to understand not everybody at the same level. Not everybody's going to get it after the first time. And my thing is, that's what I have to work on. So you want to be reflective. You want to be introspective. If you're going in this Admiral branch, that's the number one thing. Introspective, reflective, willing to learn at all times, seeking out wisdom, gaining experience, never thinking that you know it all. And believe it or not, as much as people may call me a know-it-all, the one thing that I know in life is constantly gain that wisdom, constantly be in a space of learning, constantly take the steps to gain more information. Don't ever think that you got it all figured out. That's what I tell myself every day. You don't have this all figured out. Every day is a step towards progress and growth, personal growth and personal development. And my personal development is very important to me as a leader. So I would ask that anybody who steps up to be an admiral, male or female, that you embody those qualities of constant learning, wisdom, knowledge, introspection and reflection, and patience. And that is what I will be doing as well. Okay? Just be able to lead teams and effectively manage resources to achieve desired outcomes. As a chief architect of the Queen Mothership, I don't have like the ability to stop someone from like doing their chapter or doing their, but I can delegitimize. Like if I see that some fuck shit going on and I hear about it in another state or another city and it's fuckery, we will put a plug and we will delegitimize. Even if they say, well, we're not going to disband our chapter or disband our Queen Mothership, you will be put on a list that you are not recognized. And we're talking about if we hear about violence or if we hear about something crazy, like it has to be ridiculous. We will ask for disavowalment, and if we can't, and if legally if we're not able to do that, then we will delegitimize. You will be removed off our register and not recognized as a part of the Queen Mothership. You won't be a legitimate chapter. You won't be legitimate. You'll just be looked at as the outsiders. If we find out again that you are not adhering to the blueprint, that you are not following the structure, and you are not being a good leader. If your members come and say that this person is a narcissist, they trying to do cult, because one of the things is there's no groupthink in this Queen Mothership. Everything is voluntary, everything is optional, and you don't have to believe and follow what I say and do. Or what I believe you must believe, or no, hell no. None of that in the Queen Mothership. You just don't have. One of the things that we teach humans is to never externalize your power. For one, don't externalize your power to anything. Value logic and critical thinking, and only take suggestions. I can only give suggestions. You follow or you don't. Everything is a suggestion with me. Now I understand the power of delegation, when we have to get shit done. I understand delegating. But in terms of trying to control what someone thinks and control what someone believes, that is unfair to me. So I do not approach this Queen Mothership like that. I can give you the knowledge of the Queen Mothership matriarchal history, give you the knowledge of the Shakti, because we do have a spiritual development program in the Queen Mothership. That, again, is optional. I don't give a damn if you're a fucking atheist or agnostic. You can be in this Queen Mothership. Just because we hold our little Saturday sermons about the Shakti Queen Mothership of Kali Ma, you do not have to believe in that or attend that. No, you do not. You can be a Christian, Muslim. You would be very much respected here, because we don't do, you gotta believe what I believe. We have our spiritual development. I am the creator of a Nakti philosophy. I'm a philosopher. I've created my own philosophy system. I'm very spiritual. I'm a spiritual intuitive. I'm a minister. I'm like a ordained minister. So I have my beliefs, and I'm not here to push what I believe on anybody, just because we have a spiritual development program. And that's just for my particular branch. If you don't want to be dealing with that, or if you have a chapter and y'all don't want to deal with, you do not have to have that spiritual development program in your chapter at all. It's just in the book. If you want it, it's there. But you don't have to have that. Because again, this is not about groupthink. This is not about building zombies who just take orders. So let's keep going. The candidate shall also possess a degree from an accredited university or equivalent postgraduate qualifications. So this is still for the Admiral branch, along with outstanding communication skills, both verbal and written. Here's the thing with that. You do not have to have a degree. If you do not have a degree, you must show proof of being self-taught. You have to have education in the Admiral branch. You cannot, come on now. Like, this is serious. You're building a fucking pocket city for Black Americans under a matriarchal framework, under a blueprint, under specific guidelines. And you have to implement councils and leadership and committees. And we have to implement structural building of our land. We have our own economies. We have our own defense. We have to have people that are competent. Competency is key. So no, you don't have to have a degree from an accredited university, even though it says that in the book. It literally says this in the book. If you do not have a degree, you have to show proof of being self-taught. And how do you show proof of being self-taught? Through your experiences, through your positions that you hold right now as leaders in your profession. That's being self-taught. Having a body of work that you can point to proves that you're self-taught. Some type of body of work that you can point to and say, this is what I have done, or this is what I have did. I have started this, and this is proof that I am self-taught, that I can run. Say if somebody started a nonprofit organization and they ran that for 10, 15 years, but they don't have a degree. That's self-taught. That's being educated. Okay? So we would, obviously, if you do have a degree from an accredited university, that will go far, especially if in certain fields. But it's not a requirement. You are also, as an admiral, would be expected to have interpersonal skills. Okay? You're known for creating positive working relationships. Here's another thing. You don't burn bridges. That's very key. If you're going to be an admiral, man or woman, do not burn bridges. Always try to negotiate and keep positive working relationships when you can. Okay? So that's very important to me. In my personal life, not burning bridges is extremely important to me, believe it or not. Now you have to be careful because you don't want to come off as playing both sides. You do want to take stands when it's necessary, and you do want to support the people and be loyal when necessary. When it's time to be loyal, you gotta ride out for the people that's loyal to you, and that's another principle of mine. I am loyal to the people who are loyal to me. I will ride out with you, no doubt. I will ride out with you to the end, right or wrong. If you're wrong, I'll tell your ass behind the scenes that you're fucking wrong. Unless you've been messing with children. If you're doing something to children, I'm not riding out with you. You cannot touch these children, and you cannot beat on women. You cannot abuse women, and you cannot touch on children. You cannot kill people. Other than that, I will ride out with you. If you're loyal to me, and the relationship is positive and beneficial to both of us, yeah. But I do not like burning bridges. That's just the type of leadership that I am. That's just the type of leader that I am. If I can develop prominent relationships with people from different factions, that's what I would do. And keep peace, that's what I would do. If it is time to pick a side, then that's what has to happen as well. Sometimes there are times when you have to pick a side. It's just as simple as that. And though that's not necessarily my personality, I understand the importance of it though. I really do. So, don't burn bridges if you're an admiral. Okay? So, once all the necessary criteria has been met for the prospective admirals, you have to be approved by the majority of the council members to take office. Again, this would be theoretically if you guys were in the election process. Say, this is down the line in terms of say 5-10 years from now. admirals who run in a subsequent chapter, who is, say, it's established chapter rather. So if you're in an established chapter for like 10-20 years, the framework is that you would have to be approved by a majority of the council members to take office as far as admirals. But right now, since we're so new, you pretty much don't have to go through that process. You could pretty much just start your own chapter as admirals right now. But eventually, once your chapter is up and say your shit been running for 5, 10, 20 years, you know, admirals have to be approved by a majority of council members to take office. If you start your chapter as admirals around the country, and you build up your shit, and your people don't like you anymore, and they feel like you're just not an effective leader, the council, remember the Council of Elders and the Council of Formidable Men and the Council of Queen Motherships can get your ass on out the paint. They can, with a 2/3 vote. So, but we're thinking about the future. So say your branch has been in existence, your particular chapter has been in existence for 15 years. Then that approval is typically carried out through a formal ballot process of the council members, okay, with each individual member having one vote in favor or against the proposed candidate. The admiral designate will be declared elected once they receive more yes votes than no votes. You just have to receive more yes votes than no votes. Something very simple. And with that final step is successfully completed, the new admiral can officially assume their position and begin their term on the council. Elections are held every 2 years, and admirals can run as long as they are elected. As long as you're elected, you can run on it. You surely can. If you keep getting elected, that's fine. It is worth noting that these requirements are subject to change at any time and may vary depending on the nature and size of the chapter. And we were just talking about that, but this is what it says in the book. It can change at any time depending on the nature and size of the chapter. Again, if you're a new chapter, you pretty much can bypass all of this and just start your position as admiral. If you are 15, 10 years in the game, 5 years in the game, and you got a couple members, you got 20, 30 people in the chapter, and you're going to have to go through the election process. If they don't like your ass anymore, they'll get you out the paint. It's as simple as that. So let's just give an example with me. I'm an admiral. I'm also a chief architect. I'm the chief architect of the Queen Mothership. So let's say they don't want me to be admiral anymore. I can be removed from being an admiral, but I cannot be removed from being a chief architect. Now, with the chief architect and with the governance of power, though, even within my own branch, I'm still beholden to those councils. As a chief architect, I have a considerable amount of say within what goes on within the Queen Mothership in general, but I can be removed from the admiral branch. I can be removed from a council if I get out of pocket as a leader. So I'm always checking myself, but I cannot be removed from being the chief architect. And in my particular branch, I can still get removed, but I would still be the chief architect in my branch. Now, I'm not the chief architect of other people's particular branch. I don't have no say in what another group is doing in another city. I can advise them. I can delegitimize them if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. If they're not following the blueprint, I can delegitimize them, and we won't recognize them. But I don't have a say. I can't go over there and pick admirals for them, pick their council. I don't have the right to do that. And if they wanted advisement, and someone came to me from a different city and they wanted me to help them put that together, that's one thing. But I don't have any say over anybody else's chapter. So if it's just a bunch of freemans that want to run their shit, or a bunch of FBAs that want to run their shit the way they want to run it, you can do that, but you got to follow the blueprint of the Queen Mothership. You have to follow the Queen Mothership blueprint. And if you deviate from that Queen Mothership blueprint and we find out that y'all whipping children, I'm hearing cases of women getting their ass beat, you're getting delegitimized completely. And you will not be recognized as a part of the Queen Mothership branch overall. So that's as far as I go. But as far as being a chief architect, I can change this framework. I can take advice from others who come to me and say, look, I got this suggestion for you. I got this suggestion for you. Can you add this to it? I will add what you give to me to the Queen Mothership and give you credit for it. I don't mind that. But this is a creation of the Black American. There's people that have more experience than me. I'm only 31 years old. So if someone comes to me and says, look, I think you should tailor your councils this way and do it this way. I will go and update the blueprint, and I will give credit to that person who helped me tailor these ideas. And that's just the type of leader I am. I like to be fair. I like to give credit where credit is due. I don't like to steal shit from nobody. I do not have to take anybody's intellectual property. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I have a lot of shit up in my head. I'm very, very creative. I could come up with my own shit. I don't have to steal nothing from nobody. I will always give you credit. If you contribute, I'm a listener. I will take advice. If you guys say, if you're just being a hater, I could tell the difference between somebody being a hater and somebody that's really like trying to look out and say, you know what, I think the Queen Mothership could excel if you did this, if you did this better, if you implement this. That's different than somebody just trying to knock your dreams. This is obviously in its infant stages, okay? So this is in its infancy stages, and I'm building out my branch in real time, even though this blueprint is done. So we're in infancy stages. Now, I'm not one to just make up shit as I go along. I believe in very strategic, structured processes. And yes, we're learning on the job, but at the same time, damn it, we have to put some very well thought into what we're building and to what we're doing. And I've been working on this for 3 years. Not the Queen Mothership enterprise architecture, but the ideas and frameworks for Black Americans. Is what we'll have to do. So, additionally, certain chapters may have additional criteria of their own that must be met. So again, say it's the FBA chapter. They want to do Queen Mothership. They got 10 people. They may require that you just be FBA. That's particular criteria. You can add stuff. Not too much deviation, but they may require that you have a degree, and they may not take being self-taught. My branch, I'll take being self-taught. I also recommend, it's in the blueprint, that you take being self-taught. But say small deviations like that, is allowable. Small deviations such as only having somebody with a degree in the Admiral branch, that's allowable. You cannot take out the idea that this is matriarchal. You cannot just flip this shit, the Queen Mothership, and try to make it, try to remove women from the positions of leadership. Like, now that's a no-go. This is a very strategic perspective. This is very lineage based. When we say lineage based, we're talking about like the matriarchal concept is found in melanated people bloodline, in their epigenetics, in Black Americans' epigenetics, whether they are indigenous or from African descent of West Africa. This has been tried and true. This is a history that has been purposely buried by both melanated and white people. And so I brought it out. I did write a whole book on this, covering the matriarchy, and I found more matriarchies in America and in West Africa. I found more than what I found when I first wrote my book 3 years ago. There are tons more matriarchies. So I had to go and update it. So we got evidence of that we were in matriarchies. So this is, when I say this is lineage based, it is what it is. But we also egalitarian. So we don't emasculate Black men, where manhood is very important in the Queen Mothership. And we do love the men. We're not misandrous. Just because we're matriarchal does not mean we're misandrous. We're just fucking matriarchal. Okay? So small deviations are allowed, and you will never be, however, you cannot remove the women from their positions of power in the Queen Mothership. Absolutely not. The basic requirements to become the Admiral of the Council should remain the same throughout each chapter, with an understanding of what is required. Okay, so now we'll cover, we got 2 more things to cover and we're almost done, guys. So how to elect members to the council. So the election of a council member is an essential step in the overall functioning of the chapter, and that process should be conducted carefully to ensure qualified and motivated individuals are important. Again, this was written from the point of view of, say, subsequent chapters, subsequent years already in existence. And if you're new, you pretty much bypass these steps. Like for the first 5 years, you most likely get to bypass these steps. Because it's new. So election to the councils is always going to be voluntary based. Okay, and the established criteria for electing a council member are vital, as they will help narrow down the candidates and ensure that only the best suited individuals are chosen. To be eligible for the election to the council, any potential candidate must meet the specific criteria. So here are some of the criteria for becoming a council member. You should have some type of background or experiences, or relevant experience in business, legal, financial, or education. You can be in agriculture, technology, all of those things as a council member. So there is some deviation with here. You can deviate with the field. Besides, it says business, legal, financial, or other relevant experience. So other relevant experience could be sociology, could be agriculture, could be engineering. Okay, so there's a deviation in that aspect. Additionally, candidates should demonstrate knowledge about issues affecting their community and show an understanding of how best to work with local entities. Okay, so again, when we're building up these micro cities, we are going to have to go through some red tape in regards to not only land procurement, but our water procurement. And again, we're starting with my individual branch. I'll be the guinea pig. But we're going to have to work with local authorities, obviously, on getting some of these things, and even with the community trust, land banks, community land trusts, all those things. It requires you have to work with other people. We have to have good negotiation skills. Information how to work with local authorities once again, and so that's important. And to further ensure fairness, it is recommended that all candidates stand for election on a nonpartisan basis. So you can't bring in personal politics into the council shit. So like stuff like whether or not you're a Democrat or Republican, that shouldn't matter. Stuff about what your religious beliefs shouldn't matter. Stuff about just stupid shit. You don't want to get caught up in the weeds. Oh, they have Freeman, they have ADOS, they have FBA. None of that should matter unless that's your particular branch. Now, my branch again is Black Americans only, and Black Americans regardless of what they identify as. So, name banging in terms of this council stuff is not really going to be a thing in my branch. That's why I like Black American, and I prefer for Black Americans to generally see themselves as Black Americans, and if they prefer to go with their on paper, with ADOS or FBA, whatever. But for me personally, I prefer Black Americans, because I really don't want to get into all that drama with that fighting and that infighting. I really can't stand it. It really keeps away from productivity. And people judge you based on who you roll with, and people will hold it against you. I find that so incredulous that people will hold something that simple against a human, as far as a name, when you all come from the same lineage. I think that's stupid as fuck. I do. I think that shows low levels of intellect. Because there's bigger missions and there's bigger goals at play, and people have their gifts, and their people are individuals. That's why you have to treat people as individuals. When you can look at a person as an individual versus they labels, they statuses, they names, you get a lot farther. You build some very powerful relationships that way. So you'll never see me get into, oh, they FBA, and, they Freemans, they doing this. No, I gotta look at them as the individual. I see shit. I see who keeping up shit. I see it. But I'm always gonna look at you as an individual. That's what I will do. Who has the same goals and alignment as me. So that's what I'm looking at, is the individual, your character, your soul. So I don't give a shit what you identify as. It should not play a role in your election or in my branch. Now, there may be a group of ADOS that just only that like a Queen Mothership ideas, and they only want the ADOS people. They had that right. That's their chapter. I ain't got nothing to say. As long as they following the blueprint, they can do whatever the hell they want to do. and identify, and you got to be ADOS. That's how they running it. That's how they doing it. That's not my branch, but I understand Black Americans is intricate, and the Black American is multifaceted and complex. I don't do name banging, but I understand other people are doing it. I know that there are Black Indigenous that literally don't even like me because of my perspective on this. And I'm Black Indigenous, I'm Black American. And there are Black Americans that don't like the fact that I don't care about the name banging. And so they shun me because they see that, they see I hang with a Freeman. They saw that, I saw you hanging with an ADOS. Or you hanging with some FBAs. And they don't like that because they don't like them. And they're banking, when it comes to them, it's like you gotta be standing on Black Indigenous only. You can't hang with the Freedmans. So to me, that's not gonna work for me. That's not gonna work for my personality. Because I see the value in Black Americans in general. That's just me. Now I could see if it was some immigrants or something, or somebody from a different ethnicity, I could see that. And if I was allowing white people in the shit and they wanted to hold my feet to the fire, I understand that. But I ain't even doing that. I'm just looking at universal Black Americans. I'm just trying to, love on all Black Americans. And I'm looked at as I'm wrong for that. Like, people treating me a certain way because I just want to love on Black Americans. And I don't give a damn about what they calling themselves. I don't. Okay? So let's keep going. Again, council members, you're expected to make unbiased decisions for the most part because you're benefiting your particular chapter, your particular Queen Mothership branch. Wherever that Queen Mothership branch is at, for me, I am expected to make unbiased decisions. I am expected to put the whole before myself and to benefit the whole community. The community comes first. It's as simple as that. Black Americans come first. And if you ever realize, I'm constantly asking Black Americans, well, what do you think? What do you think we should do? What would you like to see? What do y'all want to call yourself? And that's why I went with Black American, because the Black Americans told me themselves that's what they want to be called. I wasn't going with that. I wasn't. I was going with American Indian. I was going with some black, just Black and just Indigenous. And when I talked with the Black American, they were saying Black American. At first I was like, you know what? I was considering Freedman. I'm not going to lie. I was like, you know what? I like that Freedman stuff. I like what you're doing. I didn't like certain characters. I don't like certain characters. I feel like some of them have very poor leadership in that Freedman stuff. Some of them are very toxic. And it's as simple as that. They know who they are. But I was considering in Freeman identity. I was like, you know what? That's cool. So I was trying to find some Freemans in my genealogy. I didn't find any Freemans in my genealogy. So that was kind of like, okay. The status thing. Let me look into that. I wasn't getting any clarity whether or not there was white Freemans or Black Freemans. There was some confusion about that, so it made me a little uneasy. It wasn't the deal breaker though. The deal breaker was talking to Black Americans themselves, and I'm saying that they want to be called Black American. That was the number one thing. And then the next thing was the some of the toxic leadership, because I'm Indigenous. Oh, I'm getting caught pretending and all this stuff like fucking Freeman's. Like, I'm not dealing with that disrespect. Y'all out of pocket for that. Y'all out of pocket. Y'all started a lot of fucking drama. Y'all did. So I said, well, I won't be going with American Freeman or Freemans, but I did enjoy learning about it. I really was like, you know what? They did a lot of work, and if it's a status thing, that's something that I will look into. But it didn't pan out that way. But if I was to consider it anything, it would have been Freedman or FBA. And again, talking with Black Americans, everyday Black Americans, they didn't know nothing about all this shit. The average, it's 40 million of us. The average Black American don't know nothing about fucking Freemans, ADOS, FBA. They know a little bit. They might have heard it in passing, but for the most part, Black Americans are rocking with the term Black American. And it's just as simple as that. And that, to me, speaks values, because it's about what the people want. It's what they want to call themselves. So to me, I respect it. You got to respect the people. My leadership style is to respect the people. And sometimes they can kind of be somewhat annoying, because sometimes you can see that you have a better idea, or you might be a little too ahead of your time, but or you could see how something could be damaging. But again, I personally find that the best leadership styles is one in which you see it as service to the community, and one in which you listen to the people. There's wisdom in crowds, and there's wisdom in listening to what people themselves say. Now, there are times where, the community can be wrong on something, and I will say that. Sometimes there's things where I think the black community, there's groupthink. They're not thinking critically, so sometimes you do have to make an executive decision as a leader. You do. You have to say, you know what, I'm implementing this, but for the most part, my leadership style has always been facilitative. I'm a facilitative leader. So that means that I'm always asking Black Americans, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What would you like to do? What would you like to see? What do you want to do? And I'll take that in consideration, add on to it, mesh it out, and let's implement it. That's just me. That's just my leadership style. And when it comes to going with Black American, that is where that came from. Listening to them, understanding their perspective, even if I didn't agree with everything. I didn't agree with everything the Black American was telling me, but I still listened, and I said, you know what? I prefer to go with the term Black American, and I wanted to redefine it, which I think we successfully did, because getting it redefined was very important, because the government put Black as a racial group from Africa, and I thought that was very problematic, obviously. So hopefully we can get that redefined, and Black American is a good term, because it's the definition. And if you can change the definition, just like they changed the definition of African American, change the definition of Black American to mean just us, then I'm good. I don't have no problems with it. I can rock with that for the next 27 years, according to the OMB. With the OMB thing that we were dealing with. And now that drama with the OMB, Lord have mercy. Yeah. So, what's the next one? Okay, so we have criminal records. How do we deal with criminal records? A criminal record may disqualify an individual from serving on the council. Obviously, that depends on the nature of the past offensive. It just depends on the nature of what the hell it was, and jurisdiction in which they are running. In my branch, we do background checks eventually. You're on an honor system. You're on a honor system, but just a criminal background check. We don't care about your credit, or trying to get in your finance, or trying to get in your business and shit like that. Whatever is the least evasive, because I don't like evasive stuff. I've had people come to me and literally try to ask for my social security number to join the organizations, ask for social security numbers, ask to sign NDAs, ask to sign fucking weird ass contracts, and give them my ID, for them to go and do not just ID, but give them fucking my social security number, and then have a no perpetuity clause where they can. It's pretty much like there was nothing in the contract that will stop them from being able to monitor. It literally said in the contract, at any time we can just go and run background checks. And I just thought that was fucking strange. And I'm like, so I don't ever want to make anybody feel that way, because I remember wanting to actually just do the work and actually be involved in my community. And I remember feeling like, that's evasive as fuck, and I don't even know you. That's fucking evasive, and I'm not getting paid. It's free. So I'm never going to do that to somebody. So for my branch, you're on an honor system. It's best to just be honest. If you have a criminal record, it's best to be honest, because stuff like that. I think you can look up criminal stuff. I think anybody can get access to that. Anyways, obviously we just need to see ID. Just to see ID, and that's pretty much it for my branch. And that's it. And you're on the honor system. If you have been obviously small little petty stuff, we're not going to shoplifting, or you got caught doing something, you got caught doing some sex work or something. Nobody's going to care about that. But or even distributing marijuana or something, nobody cares about that. I mean, I personally don't. But if it comes to embezzlement, serious fraud, especially fraud of the black community. That's a no-go. Touching children and beating on women. Sorry, that disqualifies you. Beating women's asses and shit like that. No, we ain't dealing with that. So, but if it's other little stuff, you got caught with some weed, you got caught with a pipe or something, and you clean and you do it, and you turned your life around, and that's your past, and the past is behind us, and shit. And if you got your shit together and you did something when you was 18 or some shit, like, but you changed your life, you've been a construction worker for the last 20 years, ain't nobody gonna hold no, you know what I mean? So it's better to just be honest. You're on an honest honor system. As simple as that. So that's as much as other branches, they may have something different. Another chapter may have something different in terms of how they deal with criminal records, but what I advise as the chief architect is to look at someone's ID, make sure they have an ID if they're joining, and put them on the honor system. If there's some like freeload stuff, like freeload database where you want to just run a criminal thing, I think that should be the extent of it, because we do have things to search if someone, we do have intelligence measures in terms of weeding out chaos agents. So as far as like infiltration, we do have a chapter and a blueprint for how we deal with agents and infiltration and spies and stuff like that. So that stuff, it weeds it. We'll kind of weed that out. So you don't need to be so strict, in my opinion, with like trying to get someone's social security number and all this shit. Like, nah, especially if they volunteer and all this stuff and they come to and they want to be a part of it. Like, nah, just look at their ID, had a fill out application, ask them if you ever been convicted of a offense, and they don't have to put their social security number and all that shit on there. That's what I'm thinking. And again, it's subject to change, but I just know how I was made to feel. I felt that was extremely evasive for a person I didn't know that asked me to join they shit to work for free, to ask me to give them my fucking social security number and ID for them to do criminal credit checks, job checks, and references. That was way too motherfucking much. And I had talked with people that I know, they're like, you ain't even getting paid for that. Hell no, you don't even know that person. But it had happened. And they asked me to sign a weird ass contract. So, I don't want to make nobody feel like that. So let's cover this last thing about egalitarian. This is the last part, and then we'll be done. So egalitarian. So in an egalitarian society, men and women are seen as equal regarding their rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. This type of society is founded upon a belief that everyone should have access to the same resources and benefits regardless of gender. In such a system, men and women share tasks equally within a family structure, with neither assuming more responsibility than the other. Additionally, education and employment opportunities should be open to both genders equally, and it is. We have some roles with the councils, but again, it's all optional. And if a woman is on the council and they don't want to deal with none of this stuff, they want to do architecture, they can. So egalitarian society strive for social justice through the greater representation of women in leadership positions. This ensures that decisions made at all levels are based on voices from all of our perspective rather than male-centric ones, because we're not a patriarchy. It also enables more equitable access to economic resources, which can help reduce and eliminate gender-related poverty and economic disparities. Furthermore, it can promote better general health care for both genders regarding reproductive health services. So overall, an egalitarian society provides a greater sense of equity between the sexes and creates a platform for greater gender equality in all aspects of life. This can benefit both men and women by creating more balanced power dynamics between them and opening up possibilities for further advancement across all areas. Therefore, it is clear that the presence of an egalitarian society is key to achieving true gender equality on a broader scale. Ultimately, an egalitarian society is a foundation for a more equal and fair world where men and women can access the same resources and participate meaningfully in all aspects of life. So that's pretty much that, we're a matriarchal egalitarian society. We have men and we have women represented in equal levels, and we love them both very dearly. In the Queen Mothership, manhood is not shunned, masculinity is not shunned in the Queen Mothership, and neither is femininity and womanhood. And we are matriarchal based on our history, but we got a lot of love for each other. So that is the governance system. That is the governance of the Queen Mothership. Next, we'll be covering, let me hurry up because I gotta make sure I don't go over the 2-hour mark, guys. We'll be covering social fabric. We'll be covering social fabric, and that would be cool because we're going to get in a little bit into culture and a little bit into things that we value. That's going to be our value system. So social fabric is important because we have some guidelines around that, and this is a blueprint, so you're expected to follow the blueprint, with the exception of things regarding religious beliefs and stuff like that. Like, we do have a spiritual development, but that spiritual development can range from anything. Minds have a particular look, but spiritual development engagement is totally optional. So social fabric is going to consist of our education and intellectualism, defense, all of those things. So we're going to cover that, and that is it for today. This is chapter 2 and chapter 3 of the Queen Mothership Enterprise Architecture Blueprint. And Black Americans, if you are interested, send me an email at info@nocti.us. We're pretty much in the early infant stages of this, so we are just working on developing people and organizing Black Americans. So we're just in the organizing stage at this point, and it's as simple as that. So I will talk to you guys later, and I love you, and talk to you later. Bye.